Hi, and welcome to Friday Vespers for September 3rd. It's been a while since we read from Barbara Brown Taylor's book, Learning to Walk in the Dark. So, following a reminder from a friend, I figured it was time to pull it down off the shelf. Today, I'll be sharing a portion from the chapter she calls The Dark Emotions. When Taylor refers to the dark emotions, she's referring to those things that keep us up at night, tossing and turning, those feelings we don't like, such as grief, fear, despair. She draws from the research of Miriam Greenspan, a psychotherapist who wrote, "Grief, perhaps the most inevitable of all human emotions, given the unalterable fact of mortality, is seen as an illness if it goes on too long." Greenspan herself had lost a child when he was 2 months old, and her own mother was a Holocaust survivor. Greenspan knew grief both personally and professionally, and throughout it all, she learned that if you have spent time in the company of dark emotions, you may have received subtle messages from the people around you that you were supposed to handle them and move on sooner rather than later, and that if you didn't do it on some particular schedule, you just might not have enough faith in God. If you did indeed have enough faith, you could banish the dark angels from those stressful thoughts in the night and replace them with the light angels of belief, trust, and praise. Greenspan calls this spiritual bypassing and says we use religion to dodge the dark emotions instead of letting it lead us to embrace those dark angels as the best, most demanding spiritual teachers we may ever know. Taylor writes of difficult time in her own life and says this: "When I stopped trying to block my sadness and let it move me instead, it led me to a bridge with other people on the other side. Every one of them knew sorrow. Some of them even knew how to bear it as an ordinary feature of being human instead of some avoidable curse. Watching them ride the waves of their own dark emotions, I learned that sadness does not sink a person. It is the energy a person spends trying to avoid sadness that does that." Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Taylor says of this, "Reading this, I realized that in a whole lifetime spent with seekers of enlightenment, I have never once heard anyone speak in hushed tones about the value of endarkenment. The great mystics of the Christian tradition all describe it as part of the journey into God." Taylor concludes her chapter with these words: "As much as I do not want to go there, there is no dodging the next cycle of the moon. Above my head, the waning crescent is headed toward full dark, or at least dark to me. Paradoxically, the nights when the old moon vanishes from sight are the same nights the new moon is being born. Tomorrow night I will need a flashlight to shut the chickens in for the night. Either that, or leave the house early enough to wait for my eyes to adjust, allow for stillness, and then see what is possible. To walk like that is to become part of the night in a way that no light-bearing colonist can. To walk like that is to remember the night inside me, where the new moon is always being fashioned in the dark." As we take a few breaths before closing today, may we inhale. Breathe in the gift of fortitude to carry us through the nights, the gift of peace to calm us in our restlessness and wakefulness, the gift of respite to enable us to breathe and meditate and just be in those moments when sorrow and fear and any of a myriad of dark emotions may threaten to overwhelm us. Let us exhale our fear of fear, Our fear of our own inability to deal with these emotions that we label as being negative, when they are simply part of life, part of reality, part of our being, part of our learning and growing. And let us inhale God's Spirit, who helps us to learn and grow and keep walking, but also allows us the gift of sitting and crying, or resting, or reevaluating, or finding support, or whatever it is that we might need in those moments that we find we have needs. May you find blessings in your days and your nights, and may you keep breathing in the light and in the dark, knowing Spirit breathes with you. Bye bye.